there with the C10s getting airbagged. I airbagged a 1960 Chevy C10 back then also, or whatever, yeah, C10. That a 1960, I remember bagging that, and all these are learning that there's no drop spindles for it. They didn't have disc brake kits. They didn't have stuff for those back then. So it was as low as you could just get it, you know. And I did like 3 or 4 of those. This guy was in a club and kind of lowrider guys, and they had a whole bunch of those trucks. I ended up doing a whole bunch of those, and some had torsion bars and some didn't. So I was like learning like, hey, the 60 has torsion bars and all this, and the older ones or the newer ones don't. The 64s and stuff don't. So it was weird like how you learned how it all worked. And so in the meantime, I'm doing all that, and then one of my buddies from Hemet hits me up and says, hey, my dad, Cuddy Bones Newtbaum, which is a famous built a million famous things. He's back, you know, used to work back at the Barris back in the days and all that stuff back in those days when he was a kid. And he lived in Hemet, and he was into hot rods big time with Dick Dean and all that. And he had brought me a 46 Ford that they were building, and it was all chopped and all this crazy custom stuff to it. And it had a Mustang 2 front end in it. And he said, hey man, like I want those airbag things that you're doing. And I'm like, well, I've never done one on one of these like front ends like that. I just did Rob 48s, and this was all like within months of each other, by the way. It wasn't like years later. It was like all within months. And he's like, well, can you do it? And I said, I'll figure it out. So he brings it, and it literally had a Mustang 2 front end crossmember cut out of a Mustang 2 and welded into this car. It wasn't like a Mustang 2 front end like you guys see now. They didn't make those then. That wasn't even an option. It was literally the actual crossmember cut out of the car. It was pretty freaking hacked into that car. Let's just put it that way. It was like, what the hell? So anyway, so I ended up figuring it out and airbagged the front of that car. And it had running boards that they had molded in and made. And when the front was done, the running board laid flat on the ground. I was like, what the heck? Because I didn't realize at the time, those cars, the bodies are actually even with the frames. And so I ended up doing the rear, just de-arced the leaf springs down, notched it to get it to lay, and then the bags lifted it up, which is not the best way to do it. But back then, that was just kind of, you know, figuring out ways to do it. You know, there was no room to really 4-link it. He didn't want to do all that. So that's just how we did it. So it had leaf springs de-arced, and the airbags lifted it up, and it laid the running boards laid flat on the ground like crazy. And I just remember, like, I have pictures of it, and I just remember being like, what the heck? Like, this thing's like on the ground, and it's I didn't even have to cut it all up to get it to lay on the ground. Like, it's just already on the ground. So I'll see if I have a picture. I'll go through some of these old photos. Oh, there it is right there. That's it right there. So it was about almost done right there. And then when it was all done, it laid flat on the ground right there. So, but that's what it was. You know, I was figuring out how to do it. And there you go. That full-size extra cab long bed, 4-link airbags. You can see my Astrovan in the background, 4-link airbags. All these are on 17-inch Budniks. That was like big wheels back in the day. They didn't make 18s yet at this time. That's how old I am. But people just started started doing a lot of these. But anyway, so that's kind of how it started. That was like the first cars that we did, and the first kind of hot rods. And it was just kind of cool just to be able to do all these, and nobody else was doing it at the time. So that's kind of how the airbag started, and that's kind of how I started off all of doing what I do, and how it all started, and just kind of evolved. And yeah, so I think it's kind of neat, you know. It just kind of took off, and I learned a lot. And like as I did things, like I'll look back now and see things I did then and go, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, you know, because I've changed the way I do things. You know, obviously you evolve and you get better, and you change your ideas, and all that kind of stuff happens. So you just get better and better and better. So you know, and figure out better ways. So I can't tell you how many hundreds of cars and trucks I've bagged, because it's hundreds. And body drops, and like I wasn't the first to body drop things. Like that was already a thing. I was able to body drop that full-size truck, and it hadn't been done yet at the time. That's all on that style truck. So there might have been other ones, I don't know, but that style truck was not done like that yet. And right when we were doing that truck too, we also did a Tom McMurdo that worked with me at the time. He had the van. that a lot of people know. Super popular van. Went through like after we did it at our shop. Let me find the magazine with it in there. It's here someplace. Do that. Here. This was his van. It was green first, then orange, then yellow, but he had sold it at this point. And anyway, he had sold that van and got a 67 Chevy truck, and nobody really had those at the time. And we ended up cutting the back frame off and putting a mandrel bent frame rails on it, body dropping it, bagged it, laid it out on 17s, and nobody ever had one of those at that time. After that, people started getting them, but that was the first one that I had ever seen, or anybody had ever seen at that time. We took it to a spring splash, and then at Endless Summer there was some other yellow chopped one and some other ones that came. But so we were cutting those things up before those things were even popular. People thought those were ugly, and so that was kind of funny. Like, we were doing all that stuff back then, a long time ago. So some cool stuff. All these trucks, lots of different trucks here. These two are the same truck. A lot of people don't know. This is when we did it at Brand X with Alex Anderson and Steve Butts and stuff. We did this truck for Chris Call, who's in negative camber. That was his truck. We did it all for him there. He sold it, and my cousin bought it. And then Devious and my cousin, they redid the whole truck and then repainted everything like that. And that's what it was at the end. It's kind of cool. So there's a lot of history here. I'll kind of run through. I'll show you a little bit of stuff. Since I'm old, I'll just go through this real quick and kind of show some things. So a lot of these magazines, you know, Sal's truck there, Rob Rodell's Amigo. I mean, I didn't obviously build that, but I did help him body drop it when we were out visiting him before we go to a truck show. Put the hydros on the Power Rangers trucks back in the day. Nathan Hall's truck, built that truck. Hippies Mazda, did all that. This thing, actually, a lot of people don't realize it's got, this truck's got like a 3.5 inch body drop. The rockers have been cut and all recapped and redone. So that truck it's pretty low. A lot of people didn't know that. Bobby K's truck right there. Sal's truck on the Best of Mini Trucking. This cover I thought was one of the best covers ever right here. The thing was just freaking awesome. But it also had a tech article of me extending all the bed sides and doing all the bed stuff on this truck. So I thought that was kind of cool. This is also my Truck and Auto Sound Security when it was 100% done with the tonneau cover all lifted up, the door panels, like the wheels, everything. This is a very, 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 this is my favorite cover of that truck. It just was super clear. Super clean, I should say. And for people that are negative camber, check it out. For all the people that don't get it, look at the negative camber sticker. That was the original negative camber sticker right there. It was not an oval. We started with that afterwards because we ended up not liking that. Pretty famous S10 back in the day. We body dropped 3.5 inches also. This thing was bad as hell. Put a Eclipse bubble in the hood to clear everything. We just did the suspension and body dropped it, but the guy that worked at one of the painters, a good friend of ours, had a custom truck. They did all the body work and painted. That thing was freaking awesome. Craig Elder's truck, we built this at our shop. Me and Sal Marchese and stuff, we built all the suspension on this thing. It was one of the trucks we built for him. This thing had like 22 inches of lift when it was all said and done. Just a lot of cool old school stuff. A lot of people might not know I was in Monster Garage on the 3rd episode. Monster Garage, we built the Swamp Buggy, so that was kind of a fun thing to do, be part of. It's pretty neat, just being part of something like that was so different and cool. But this got this cool little book with all the stuff in it. Went to Louisiana to do the bug, so that was our shoot right there that we did. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was in Louisiana and we took it to the water. That was pretty awesome. Mike Collins Buick. That's the same guy that had the Sky Body truck. That's his Buick that we built, chopped, 2-door, made it a 2-door, was a 4-door Buick. This thing's pretty badass. It's been in lots of movies, magazines, lots of, I mean, it's been everywhere. Jesse James car. We did tech article and Rod and Custom doing all the front suspension in it, airbags, Mustang 2, changed the motor, just all kinds of stuff we did on that thing. That was a pretty cool car. It was pretty popular. He loved that car, I guess. And, you know, it was in the on the commercials, you know, for all the, I think it was, I forget what the auto parts store was, but anyway, whatever. This was back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. This was probably the best lowrider ever built in history. Jimmy Ray's car. The thing is just, you know, it's Vegas. It's, if anybody's ever seen it, this is one of the best vehicles ever built. It's right-hand drive. Everything's gold plated back in the day, but I did the flip down door, suicided the other door, the flip open trunk, the target top, leaned the windshield and stuff back on that. I did some work on that. I mean, obviously Concepts did a ton of shit to this too. Roger did the majority of the other stuff on it. Like, I was working with him doing that. That's why but it all got done at his shop. And, you know, obviously the bodywork and stuff got done elsewhere, but that car was just super, super, super ahead of its time. I don't have all the magazines right now, unfortunately. Still trying to locate some magazines, but built stuff for Air Mighty Volkswagen. If you guys know, this is like the most prestigious magazine. So I built this car right here for Pip Hancock's. This car was really super bitchin'. Split window. So that. Even sport compact car back in the day, like we were doing stuff in there even back in the day, doing, you know, lowering springs on Sal's Accord. Just basic stuff back in the days. This is, yeah, so that's the same Buick, just in a different magazine. It's kind of cool, like just lots of different magazines. I'm missing quite a few. I just, over the years, they've either got destroyed, lost, whatever, I don't know, but I'm probably missing about 30 or so. But anyway, so kind of give you a little idea of just some things that I've done over the years or been in. These photo albums are super, super, super old. Like they're just old. Let me see here. There's that 67 Chevy truck that we were doing that I was just telling you guys about. Putting the rear frame rails on it. So let me see if I can get a better video here, sorry. Mike Collins hard body frame that turned into 4-wheel steering, fully molded. Doug Starbuck painted that thing. Graphics down it, the thing was badass. Never got finished. Just lifted trucks, like, I don't know, you just name it. There's all kinds of stuff back in the day doing. Maybe you can see. Here, I turn the video around so you can see a little bit. I'll just thumb through this real fast. Like, it's just, this is really old stuff, so it's kind of funny. First airbagged Dodge sweep line back in the day. Randy Jansen's, he's one of the best tattoo artists in the country. Full metal target top back in like 1989, doing on a Mazda. So it was all metal, painted back, super nice. This was a truck that was in the tech articles that we did. Body dropped it. So it was a tech article doing body drop. That was Charles Wickham's truck. Body dropped it. It had air shocks. I ended up getting airbags later. Rob Rodell ended up buying it and redoing a whole bunch of stuff on it. That's the same truck. That was my tan Mazda that I was talking about after I put the graphics on it the first time. Got the suicide doors, the headlights, all that stuff. That was kind of the style. Eric Scarlett's hard body, also air shocked at the time, like custom tailgate, bumper, all that kind of stuff. Some lifted trucks there. This is the hood on this truck when I was at the paint shop getting painted. This was one of the, here, there you go, one of the first trucks, airbag trucks. Look at the air tank from Harbor Freight. The most basic airbag setup, you know what I mean? So, on the chop 620 right there. There's the chop 620. This one getting chopped, a different one.
I was into cars, Celica. This had an 18 RGU motor with dual carbs, full roll cage, suicide doors, all metal target top. I built a full frame in the car so it wouldn't flex. It was a pretty cool car. So side opening tailgates. There's the target top on the car, all metal. So that's the bed there. Full convertible on a Mazda extra cab. This truck is still around. This is all that stuff. And these are old. I mean, look at the steering wheel. Like, we used to cut the steering wheels and they would rip your pants off every time you'd get in it. What you can kind of see on the convertible tops back in the day. This is my same Mazda after I was not tan. I painted it yellow, different ground effects kit, redid all the doors. Our cool displays with goldfish. Yes, real goldfish. Yes, they died, unfortunately. This was at RG Canning after I'd repainted the hole underneath and chromed it. Just lowered Astrovan, like no big deal. Here, I'll show you this. This is funny. Okay, this was in the process of doing all the suspension. That is this truck. This. That was when Horn had it. We were doing it at my house. Sal Marchese's truck, and we were trying to do the vents like Lee Bauer's truck. We thought that was the best thing ever. Hot Tops kit that we put on it with Targa, and we ended up chopping this truck. And then it ended up becoming a roadster. That was my same Mazda after we did the graphics. Again, goldfish. Yes, they died. And Gumby. And sand. Yeah, remember hauling all this crap to the damn car show? Yes, lots of trophies. Yes, I threw them all away. The back of the bed was all done, walked through. A lot of different stuff back then. That truck right here is this truck right here. So this also had the dash. We ended up taking out, and the dash is in this truck. First, it was built for this truck. This also did suicide doors and tech articles in the magazines. Had suicide door articles in there. Doing suicide doors in this truck. Just so you can see, there's Courtney's truck. This truck doing all those lights and all this stuff. That's Stoney's truck because he thought that it would be cool to run 3 lug nuts with 44s going to the river run, and the wheel fell off. So that was awesome. This is Humpty's truck. A lot of people might know Humpty. He passed away a couple years ago. I suicided the doors. They weren't suicide here, but we suicided the doors. I made an all-metal convertible. I did hydraulics, shaved it all. This was right after it got done the first time. And then this was after it was primered before I suicided the doors. Humpty was a good dude. Charles Boog's truck. Those wheels ended up being on my truck, which they're Infinity wheels were super cool. This is when we were painting the truck. Kind of cool, a lot of pictures. Another car back in the day. This is same car. Right when after he bought it, we stripped it to bare metal just to make sure that it wasn't a piece of crap. Sal's truck. Check it out at the bottom. See how it's green? Look, it's green. Look here, it's not green, okay? Truck is also not body dropped right there, body dropped right here, okay? Did a tech article on chopping the roof on this truck in the magazine, Mini Truckin'. Back in the day, Sal's truck getting painted. Chopping OBS back in the day. That truck also had the first set of 20-inch Colorado Customs on it. Body drop, bagged with 20-inch Colorado Customs. The first ones ever was on that truck. Kind of cool. Air Scarlett's wagon that we shaved and painted. Putting a gas door on the inside. Buffalo McLean Cruiser that we built. That was all the tech articles of body drop and doing that. That's doing that at the same time. There's the car when it was all done, painted. Again, that same truck. Again there. So, Phil Rush's truck. This was on the cover of the magazine. All the crazy graphics all over it. This is when we shaved it all, molded it all. This is when we delivered it to him at Pomona Swap Meet. This truck was badass. We bagged it, shaved it, did all that kind of cool stuff to it. This is that same car I showed you with the airbags. Just another dually doing some work too. Extra cab long bed truck. Beans truck, Nissan hardbody. Put a long bed on it. It had a short bed, put a long bed on it. There's the lights up there. Tom Umberto's truck. This Mazda was on the cover of the magazine, obviously also. And this was after I was just getting the bed cover put on it from, I believe it was Sprint. They gave them a bed cover for it. Obviously didn't match, but It had already been shot for the magazine, I believe, at this time, or it was going to get shot. I can't remember exactly. Sitting pretty truck. A lot of people have seen that out of Washington. Drove it all the way down on air shocks. We body dropped it. He drove it all the way home on air shocks. So you can imagine that's the same truck right there. Here's the air shocks. That's how he brought it, but ended up going home the same way. And he made it home. And I'm sure he wasn't turning very good, but there's Tom's and his at the same time. Chris Call's old truck that was shot for the magazine back in the day, Toyota Super Clean. Sean Thurman, who has a shop, and people have probably seen, out in Texas. This was his Bug that we suicided the doors. That was my old Blazer. He also came around the corner one day on this thing, skidding sideways, hit the curb, and the door flew open on him because we had not put the latches in yet because we had suicided the doors and he had to drive it home that night, so that was cool. Sky Body and my Blazer at my house. This was right after I had just repainted the black. Kind of cool. Norm's Bug. I helped do a whole bunch of stuff to this thing, so kind of cool. Just some crazy body mod stuff. That's the old neon Nissan truck, then we get turned into a race truck, which is kind of crazy. There's Humpty's truck whenever I was doing the hydraulic stuff, and I shaved it and did hydraulics first, and then we did more later to it. It's pretty cool. This truck was originally this van, I should say. So this van I got from Pat Nichols from Ballistic. It was just an air-conditioned van. And then it was just lowered. Had those wheels on it, so I liked those wheels. So I bought the van. We ended up going out to Street Beat, and they built this ginormous rag top. Me and Courtney, and we all drove out there in this thing, and we were driving back from Arizona. It was pouring rain. We had the rag top open, and Courtney's out shooting pictures of the lightning out the top of this thing. It was pretty awesome. We stayed with Kane Morris, who has now passed away. They used to own Hack Shack. We stayed at his house out there when we did all this. So this thing was just, at the time, it was just lowered. The body was like that. I just primered it, but I did put a Chevy front bumper on it, sucked in the back bumper, had some interior done, like all dynamated, all that kind of cool stuff. And then Cope Kessler bought it, and then he took it back, and Bill Carlton at Extensive in Texas bought it from him. And he is the one who did it all to where it was orange and body dropped with the Chevy V8 and all that, and finished it. But that was the van how it started. And then there's Cope's truck right there at my house. Sal's truck, which is this truck when we were building it. Cope's big ass truck, and then he bought that. So kind of funny how all this stuff comes in big circles. Sal's truck when we were chopping the top. CRX door handles. This is that there's hard body. That was the last of kind of how it was when we were tearing it apart. Doing all this on Sal's truck. One of my Astro vans, 17-inch Budnicks, all airbagged and laid out. That ended up getting a huge rag top too. This was the Hilux, which is this truck. As I was doing the motor, and then started to do the body work slowly so I could drive it every day back and forth to work. This is when we were doing the tech articles on it, shaving it all. So it kind of looked like this. Shaving the bumpers. Hot Dog Design, that was Pete's shop, so we did it out of there. I ended up renting this shop later after he moved out. I ended up getting that shop, which is kind of cool. Did a lot of stuff there. So you can get to see it was bone stock, but the motor was all done here, and I just started chopping it. So that's kind of how it went. This is the first airbag truck that I was talking about as far as full size that we did the tech article on the magazine. This is it right here. There's Jason Pang's truck, which was the actual first airbag truck, sitting right there. And I do have pictures of that somewhere, that truck. There it is right there. That was the first airbag right there. That was the little Tanny Panhard bar with the big ass bags in the back. So this black truck is this truck. That was at Endless Summer, I believe. Little D's truck, body dropped. Shondell's truck over at our shop. This also is that truck. Like I said, these are old pictures, guys, old. So this is the motor compartment on the neon Nissan truck back in the day. This was in the 80s. Brand new. This truck was brand new when all this was done to it. Did all this truck back in the day, like in the 80s too, like 88, 89. I probably find 89. I put rodeo headlights in it, full metal convertible, ground effects. Shaved the back, put all these funky lights in it. That was the thing. I painted it all. So just lots of things. Gold-wing doors on a Blazer. There's the neon Nissan after we redid it. This is the frame I learned how to weld on because we welded every hole shut on it. Molded the whole frame, painted it with graphics. It was pretty badass. Just doing metal convertible tops, all metal, so they don't leak on there. Kind of cool. That was Eric Scarlett's truck after I shaved the rear, and we ended up painting scallops on it, putting four-wheel drive fenders on it. Courtney's truck when we were doing the rear skin and the roll pan. Boomer's Sentra. So all the people negative camber, all the ones that seem to think that there was no cars in negative camber or you had to have a truck first that don't know, I don't know where they heard all that, but this is Boomer's car. Boomer got in the club with this car. Boomer was one of the first 5 original members, which is kind of cool. This was his car. We shaved the rear, suicide doors. Then he repainted it, graphics, all that, and it was in the magazine. And that's when this car got in the magazine, when it was negative camber, and that's what he had. He didn't have a truck. This is what he had. We were just in the middle of building it. So just some more stuff. There's Humpty's truck when we were suiciding the doors. Some cool diamond tilt hoods. So old school stuff. Old school. I did a ton of these bumpers back in the day with the grills. Like this was a super famous thing to get done. Another long bed shaving. This is all Sir Michael's roll pan stuff back in the day. They're the only ones that really made anything back then. This is that same truck, the Way Cool Junior truck that had the shaved funky taillights. This is my buddy in the very beginning I was talking to you about that we did his hard body with the graphic or the ground effects and the convertible Tony Champagne's truck. This is what kind of got me going right here. After we did this truck, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So clean. Another all metal convertible or target top Mazda. Suicide doors. Todd's car, Jetta back in the day. He was in Choice. Humpty's truck again at my house, doing all that stuff. That's that same dually we were shaving. Pete painted it. Sal's truck. Yeah, see, there's the rear of that. Same truck. That frame was crazy. It was way ahead of its time. It had a 3-link in the rear, all molded on coilovers. People just didn't do that back in those days. So, there's Sean Thurman right there at our shop in Riverside. Just some shaving, some all metal convertibles again. Some guys from San Diego I did some stuff for. Just a lot of crazy stuff back then. Roadster Sentras. I mean, I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff with Buick taillights. First, this is kind of funny. So this bug right here, a friend of ours, Jeff Shook, got this from his parents. He was actually brought home from the hospital in the back of this truck, 63, and it didn't have a rag top and he wanted a rag top. So we did this at Sal's house. This was the first job I ever did for a customer. He brought us an actual rag, like roof skin piece from another bug, and we cut it all out, welded it all in, did the body work, and painted it in his garage. And that was the first. There's Sal cleaning it all up. Laying on the front of my truck, no biggie. Here I am with hair, a little thinner, doing body work in his garage. All there. This is after it was all painted. That was like the first thing I ever did for somebody. I remember when it was all said and done, I was so stoked to have that all done. It's all painted. Kind of cool. This is at Mike Collins' house. We were doing shave this whole thing, all metal convertible. That truck ended up molding all the fender flares in, and yeah, that was a lot of work. But that was a cool truck when it was all painted. Kind of cool. Back in the 80s also. As we're old, you can see the sky body in the background. We were painting and molding the frame. Yep. So Robert Sturkle's truck, we did all the body work and paint on. So this truck, boom, he was in Ecstasy, California Specials. So just some cool old stuff. Hold on, I'll go through one more real quick. Okay. Dan Gillen's truck, that was the Chulo Taco right there as we were building it. There's my Caprice in the background that ended up being body dropped. That's the suspension on Chulo Taco. That's us working on it there. This truck from Arizona, body dropped. Chulo Taco. Fun stuff. That's just this was in the middle of doing it all. Kind of funny. There it is out in front of my shop with the Mitsubishi. That's this one. This is the Caprice, shaving it, lowered the fender lips, all that fun stuff. This is the suspension that's on this, and it's like so, every time I saw it after the truck was done, I was like, oh, I wanted to cut it off and redo it. I just did not like it, but at the time it was like, it was just whatever. My wife's van, brand new van laid out on the ground with 18-inch Anteras on it. Or not Anteras, I'm sorry, Colorado Customs that Bill sponsored me on. This is in the bed of the Toyota. This is that Rezo also, Rezo 96. So, kind of cool there. Let's see what else we got going on. Sal's truck. Another one of those old school trucks back in the day. This van would look badass with those wheels on it, except for they bent all the time. So here's the truck that's, I don't know whatever happened to this truck. We ended up chopping it, but this truck had everything shaved, full suspension, and had the first set of 20-inch Colorado Custom wheels. That was the first truck body dropped in 20s back then. And it was like, I remember they were ginormous, but it was, we did so much work to that truck. And then he was up in Northern California, and we did his cousin's truck that was actually orange, like a Tangelo orange with flames, and we bagged that thing too. And I don't know whatever happened to it. He worked for Coke or for Pepsi even. I don't know. That truck was sick though. After it was all chopped and stuff, it just looked bitchin'. Another truck we did for a guy that was in the military, full shave, paint job, airbag suspension. This is why we're chopping this truck. It sucks because we lost a whole bunch of pictures when that truck. The same truck. That truck, we had pictures of it all done and chopped when we were doing it, which I don't have any finished now. I don't know what happened to it all. But Richard Galver's truck. Yeah. There's one of the Power Rangers trucks. This is this. These are the same vehicle, by the way. So we did a tech article on shaving the whole rear of this, did all the shaving. We didn't body drop or airbag or anything. We just did body modifications on it. And then this was obviously the truck on the cover of the magazine, Tom's truck. Sal's Accord that we did, like airbagged everything back in the day, custom paint, pretty badass. Little D's truck, just some funky stuff. Little D's Amigo. This truck is in Florida, I believe, still. It's actually, doors are welded shut and stuff on it now. I mean, we were bagging these things back. People didn't even know what airbags were. I mean, this thing's crazy bag. So, Dan's truck when it was all done, but shaving it all. So, a lot of old school pictures like that. My old 50 that was all bagged and stuff too. This is on that Chevy truck. This is also that same AutoSense security truck after we body dropped it. Little D's truck. You can see how we did that. Some of these tail, like the license plate boxes, they're all like, they're not just square, they're like tapered, so they look pretty cool. So, again, Dan's truck. It's just a lot. There's that Chevy there after we body dropped it and bagged it. This is the one we never saw again with the guy with the chop truck, so I don't know what happened to it. This is underneath Little D's truck in the back. Had the Celica Super rear end with the disc brakes. Yeah, Dan's suspension as we were doing it. Yeah, for the people that said 2 bars forward, 2 back that don't work. Well, that truck still was driving around 20-something years later. So that's all the rear suspension hoops and stuff we did. Just lots of stuff back then. There it is right after we primed it, getting ready to paint it. And here's Nathan's truck with Sal's dash in it after it got painted, after Boomer painted it. This is the same truck as this, same truck. So, just in the processes of getting done, that's all. We're getting ready to paint it right here. Boomer painted it black. Ryan did all the graphics on it. Yeah, that truck was bitching. Also, this truck, a lot of people don't know, this truck actually had this big of an airbag in the front with a sway bar on it still. cut into the frame, made it work. That truck drove better than it did stock. Drove so good. You could drive it a ½ inch off the ground. That thing rode like ridiculously good. Okay, Caprice that we did. Body drop, that was the purple one with all the flames. On that Sal's Accord. This is also this truck, Suicide Doors, body drop bags from Nebraska. Sean Craze's truck. Look at all these old school pictures. There's the floor. You can lift it up. Yep. Fun stuff. There's the back all clecoed together. Yep. There's the floor. Painted. Tractors Tacoma, all body drop, bagged, 4-link. This was the first Tacoma that was airbagged right here, by the way, or body dropped. First one. Dan's was second one. Yeah, we painted all these at our shop, by the way, too. Painted this. This was getting painted on Christmas morning, by the way. So this was at Pete's shop getting painted. There's Scarlett's car. There's the Caprice after it's all body dropped and shaved. Ryan did some cool little airbrush flames on it. So he lowered the fender lips. So that's when it was done. That's Carlos, obviously. Here's the Ombre right after I bought it and 4-linked and airbagged it. This truck was only like 3 weeks old. And for the other negative camber people, if you look on the windshield, it's hard to see. Negative camber, that was the pill style logo on the windshield. It's really hard to see. There's Boomer when we're working on chopping that truck. This is the truck. These are the best pictures I have of it, but they are not chopped on these pictures, unfortunately. We made all the tail lights and made all this stuff. It wasn't actual caddy lights, it was all custom made. Same truck. Dan's hood. Stuff is just all over the place in here, but this is an airbag in the front of the Accord, making the shock mount and all this stuff. This is the little airbag I was talking about. That was the first one that we ever put in a truck. It's smaller, but we use that on the Accord because they didn't have a lot of room. So you can see we had to cut out into the car to airbag it. It was a pain in the ass. This is actually the bottom of one of my Astra vans because I actually ended up taking the leaf springs out and 4-linking it and bagging it. Those were fun to do. This is also Joey's Tacoma. That was the green Tacoma that I just showed the pictures of. This was when we were doing his truck. Pretty simple stuff. Old school. Another one of our Harbor Freight tanks. Yeah, there's Joey's truck when we were doing it. 97 Tacoma. That's it before it was all done. That was right after we just bagged it. Mike's Buick again, which is this car. Looks a little different. There's Skybody. After we took it apart, we made it fit a 302. Shaved the firewall, suicide of the doors, time and tilt hood, Ford F100 headlights. I mean, we were going crazy on it, and he just lost interest. It was just too much work. Okay, there's the first airbag truck ever right there. That's Jason Bing's truck. That was the front was already on the ground. The back was just on air shocks still. But that's that. That's it right there. Little D's truck all laid out with a 3 1/4 inch body drop, I believe it was. Another OBS back in the day. I can't even count how many of those I did. This is the Icy Princess's car. She passed away a few years back. This truck was actually pretty cool. We did a back half on it with mandrel bent frame rails, full 3-inch body drop, lower the motor, B2600. Rear half all mandrel bent. She was awesome. There was not a lot of girls doing this stuff back then, and we did a ton of stuff for this truck. And she ended up passing away not too long ago, which is unfortunate. So a lot of people, if they know her name, was Monique. She was super cool. We used to call her the Icy Princess because that's what it said on her back window and on her license plate. So she was cool. Just more trucks. I mean, we did just lots of different trucks. Just work in progress stuff. I mean, these are ancient pictures. There's the S10 that was on the cover that I showed you a little while ago. It's this truck. The colors look different, same truck. airbag stuff, basic old school stuff. Some more dualies. Everybody thinks that, shit, we were doing these trucks back in the day before anybody even knew what they were. Like full airbag dualies. This truck was in the magazine. You can see the bed. I was bagging that. Where's my ombre? Look at that. There's the Toyota. That's this one. The background. I mean, look at all my poor front yard. Look at all these cars. It took a while to get to shop. This ballistic truck. This was like pretty much ahead of its time, as everybody knows. This was all done before anybody did any stuff like this. I just had a good picture of that. I liked that. And this truck wasn't around very long, so old Merc that I chopped. See what else we got here. So just working on Mike's car. Some work somebody brought us that we had to, I think we would take pictures of this stuff. We'd cut it off and we'd hang it on the wall. The wall of shame. The problem is the wall got too big, so we'd take pictures of this stuff. There's Jason Ortiz's Chevy. That was the one we did a tech article on the Chevy truck back in the day. Yeah, some more of that stuff. Just a lot of the weird stuff that we did back in the day. This is that Pete's. Doing some airbags on, and this is one of those shorter notches we started doing to keep them under the bed too. So that was kind of cool. That way you could keep everything underneath. So there's the Floor and Little D's truck with the body drop. So this is when we started putting electric valves in. Still in those 1998, but I mean they worked good, but it was, you know, there was a lot of work figuring them out. So yeah, there's Little D's Amigo with all the bracing under the hood that we had to do. Sean Mahaney had built this. We were at a show, and that was when the ballistic truck was there. Sean Mahaney had built this thing, and the tires were like slicks. They were so bald. I took pictures of it, and I was like making fun of him. He's like, hey, man, I needed to get it done. So back then, we just did what you had to do. This is actually on the Skybody truck, and we took the four-wheel drive fenders, welded them on the bed, and then extended them, made them wider. We did this on quite a few trucks, so that's a pretty popular mod on the hard bodies back in the day. Made them look pretty neat. That's the frame after it was all molded and all done. Pretty cool. Station wagon. I thought this would be cool to buy. Had a diesel in it, put a 350 in it, welded all the front end up, billet grill, bagged on center lines. My buddy Billy out in Hemet bought it from me, or we traded van for an Astro van, and he did some work to it, and then I don't know whatever really happened to it after that. So some late night partying, fun stuff. I think that's pretty much it. Some airbag stuff back in the day. Yeah, just some old school picture stuff. Yeah, this is whenever, oh, you can see Rob's truck. This is at Endless Summer or Spring Splash. They drove out from Texas. And this is the bed of this truck back then. So just old school stuff. This is Jay's truck at my house after we finished it. Icy Princess's truck, and this is the bed underneath the bed of that. So anyway, so for all that stuff, I know it's a lot, just kind of going through things that are kind of cool, you know, just now you kind of know a little bit of the history of it. Even today doing stuff, still learning things, getting better at things, bagging this Merc. This is the first one I've done with this arm set up, learning that you have to cut the shit out of the car. So there's still a lot of things to learn and still a lot of things to figure out. Finally got it to where the frame will lay on the ground, but it pushes the A-arms up so far, I've had to trim the crap out of it, even for the steering. So kind of how I go about doing these is that I just get it all trimmed to fit and make sure everything works first, and then I go back and then I reinforce all the insides, build it all back up, weld all this up, like make all new pieces for all this. We're doing a video on this car. It's almost done. All the rear's done, everything else is done, but we're on the front now. And the front is all figured out now and everything is pretty much made. So now it's about just kind of going through and boxing it in. So we'll be shooting the rest of the video of this and posting on YouTube too for the people who've been following around on the Merc. So, so it's kind of cool. And then a lot of people ask about this Mazda in the background, but once the Merc is done, we're gonna finish this truck up. This is just I mean, even now, like the builds I do, just, it's still, I try to keep it simple. I don't try to go, I built a new frame from there down off of the notch and stuff, but the bottom line is that I don't get all this weird, crazy shit. I've done all that. I've done a million different things like that. And at the end of the day, I found that the stuff like you can make it clean and simple. You don't have to like gaudy it all up. You can if that's what you like, but you don't have to. The stuff will last forever. You know what I mean? So all the trailing arms of this are all tapered and bent and tapered, so they're not just square. So it looks a lot nicer. All down around bushings. All the center section bolts in and out of this thing. It's gonna have 20-inch wheels on it, so it's not done yet. Obviously, still got to do some bracing and some other things here, but it all works and is where it's supposed to go. It gets 11 inches of lift, so that's good enough. So just kind of stuff like that. Just trying to showing that just because I can make it all crazy looking and all that, I don't really choose to do that on some unless that's something specific. And the reason being is that make it nice and clean and let it work and last forever. I mean, that's all you really need to do. But you can choose to do it however you want. But I choose to do it to where, get with the customer and let them kind of help me decide. Or if they let me do it on my own, then we'll just make stuff that looks nice, clean, simple, that'll last forever and work good. So that's kind of where I'm at with all this stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video here. I know it's a little long, but some people have been asking, so I figured I better stop and do it. And you never know what tomorrow brings, so how about just getting it done, kind of giving a little history of how I got started, a history of how the airbag started, and kind of what it's evolved into now. Like obviously if you go to shows now, every hot rod has them, every car, truck has them. It's pretty amazing. I remember the vice president from Firestone came out to Temecula and took me to lunch one day. He was out on a trip, and he would come out periodically, and we'd go to lunch. And for those people that know Temecula, there's a place called Texas Lil's, and the waitresses don't wear a whole lot of clothes, and he always wanted to go there, so we would go there and have lunch. And he told me that their tire sales are their thing, right? Firestone. But their airbag department with all that, that's a whole different division. That one, after I had been doing this airbag stuff and everybody started doing all this stuff, like after, I would say about it, I don't know, between 5 to 10 year period after doing the first ones, he was saying that 400% increase in sales, 400%. And I was like, man, I wish I would have got a penny of that, but it was pretty cool. So he said, yeah. It's funny, whenever we're talking about all this stuff there now, like your name comes up because this kind of stuff happened and it just kind of evolved. And he goes, and we don't make them specific for those because we can't. They won't allow us to, but the amount of sales that just went through the roof on it. And then just the knowing what an airbag can and can't do. It's actually an air spring. It is, we call them airbags, but they're air springs. And what that means is you have a coil spring. These are just air springs, so you have to run a shock with them in order to make it work. Otherwise, it's just like pulling the shock out of your car with a spring. It's going to ride all bouncy. So you learn a lot of things. So they're called air springs. They run them on trains. They run them on motorhomes. They run them on semis. They run them on seats in semis. It just, a lot of people don't realize I've actually airbagged 7 1957 Cadillac Broughams. They only made, oh my gosh, I'm thinking, I forget the number. I remember, I used to know it, 1,200 of them or something. That car actually, some of them came factory with air ride on it. In 1957, that car had factory air ride, and out of the ones that I did, 4 of them had it in it. The other 4 didn't, or the other ones did not. The other 3 did not. They had a factory airbags. They were a round metal pod that bolted in, and it had a bellow in there that would lift up and down, and it would lift the car up and down. It had a Monroe compressor mounted in the motor compartment that was all hardline with brake line in. And that was like a feature on that car. It actually had factory airbag setup in it. And I actually liked airbag in that car because you could unbolt that and then bolt in. I had a kit for it. You just bolt it all back in, and the car would lay the frame on the ground, and you just bolt the plates in with the bags on it, front and back, and it would lay on the ground because they had made it big enough to fit this big old metal bellow thing, and so it had all this room. And those were the easiest cars. I could bag those cars in a weekend.
So something a lot of people don't know, but yes, they had airbags on 1957 Cadillac Brahms. So anyway, so a little bit of history there, a little bit of stuff maybe you did or didn't know.